What's going on, everyone? I am just a typical, average American here today to react to this video that really caught my attention because it's called Why I Left the United States for Norway. Because here in the US, it's really, really unusual for Americans to move to a whole different country. You either have to hate the United States, really, or maybe absolutely love another country. And in this case, that was Norway. So today, I'm very curious to take a look at this and learn about why my fellow American here decided to leave the United States and move all the way to Norway. So let's take a look.
By the third time, I had to put my students into a closet because there was someone on campus with a weapon. That's when I knew it was time for me to quit my job and move
Oh
back
my,
to Norway.
whoa. Um, I was not expecting that. Oh my God. That's horrifying, honestly. And I mean, I think for a lot of people around the world, the United States, we're kind of known for that kind of thing. Like, I am aware of that. Like, here in the US, we have some pretty crazy gun laws. It's pretty easy to get a gun. We have a lot of, you know, school shootings compared to other countries. But with that being said, it's not like that common to have this kind of experience. Like, she has had it really hard. I don't know where she lives in the United States. Like, it sounds like she's a teacher, and 3 times they had to lock down the school and the classroom because there was somebody on the school with a gun. That's, I mean, I can't even imagine what that would be like. Sure, you hear about it like a lot in the United States, but usually like it doesn't happen to you. You just hear about it because the U.S. is a really, really big place. So this is a very interesting perspective. If I mean, if that happened to me, like if I was in her shoes, I get it. Actually, like that's traumatizing. That's terrifying. That is like that would motivate me even to be like, do I even want to live in this country if I feel like I can get shot and killed at my job, at school? Like, so again, I haven't had that experience. So, but that sounds terrifying. That's crazy. Wow.
So the first time I lived in Norway, it was 2014.
The
I
first
really
time.
struggled because my immigration was disapproved and I couldn't be with my husband, who is a Norwegian citizen. And
Oh, so she lived in Norway once before, but she was having some problems with immigration. So her husband is Norwegian. Okay. That kind of explains her connection to Norway, I guess, and she could actually like move there and become a legal citizen, right? If you're like married, I would think.
I decided, okay, it's probably best because I'm miserable. I don't have a job. I have very little friends. I don't really have money to even go out and grab a coffee with these people, let alone
Hmm.
go out and grab lunch or go to the bar like they wanted to do. So I felt like I couldn't create the friendships that I wanted as well.
Oh, well, unfortunately, it sounds like she has had a very hard time here in the US, and she didn't have a great time in Norway, but it was kind of out of her control. Immigration problems, no job, no money. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. Like, if you can't do anything or if you don't have friends or family, That's sad. That's tough. Okay. So she's at it kind of tough.
So we decided that in 2015 we would move back to the United States, and
Okay.
we moved to Florida where we had met in the previous years.
Okay.
And then I got him to agree to move to a new city in Florida
Okay.
where I could have my dream job. I mean, this job, I did not hit the snooze button, not once. I was up and I commuted for more than an hour each way to and from work.
That's a lot. That's okay. So Florida, like that's a nice place. Like a lot of Americans want to live in Florida. So that's cool.
Because I actually loved the job that I had. I really loved teaching. It was a struggle in the beginning because I had to learn how to teach to children, which I had never done before. But after a
Okay.
while, I started to feel confident and I started building a great relationship with these children. But
That's
with
nice.
all the safety concerns that kept happening and we had to keep going into lockdown, it was weighing on me. Every day I would drive to work thinking, I don't know. Is today the last day? Are we going to be the ones that are on the news next? I'm not really sure. And then
Oh my God. Like obviously that's terrifying. Like anyone in that situation, I don't blame them at all for not being happy where they live. Now, with that being said, I will clarify it really depends on where you are in the United States. I know we're known for guns and gun violence, and there's a lot of it in the US, but it's also known here, it really depends on where you live. Like, I've had the privilege, like, I've never seen anybody with a gun. Like, I've never been part of a school shooting, or I'm not scared to, like, when I was going to school as a kid, never crossed my mind. But that's like a very privileged upbringing, you know? But I think a fairly common one in the United States. I mean, if I think the statistics are like in the United States, less than 1%, like 0.1% of US schools have like an actual shooter experience. That's like 1 out of 1,000, 1 out of 2,000 schools in the US actually have a shooter, which, I mean, that's too many. Like, honestly, that's scary. That's like, if you know you have a 1 out of 1,000 chance of like getting shot, that's like, that's a scary thought. It's not good, but I don't think it's as much as like people maybe think. Um, so in some ways it's blown out of proportion, and in some ways it's actually very accurate. So I don't know where she lives in Florida, but frankly, it doesn't sound like a very nice place.
it's also really hard when you're a school teacher and you have children that are at an age where they understand what's going on. And they're the ones crying and you're the ones trying to comfort them, but really you're crying inside too. You have to hold it together, and you also start to question how much is too much information that I'm giving these children when
Yeah, I mean, the fact that this happens in the United States, we think we're so great. We're supposed to be a first world country. We're supposed, like, the fact that this happens is unforgivable. It's embarrassing. It's terrible. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Americans who think our gun laws are pretty crazy. Um, but this kind of stuff does happen. Yeah, yeah. It's hard to even imagine.
and I'm not their parent. I don't know how to do this. I also went to a school where at that time they didn't have any procedures of what to do. So I had a closet that was like doubling as my office.
Oh,
So that's where I decided when it came on the speakers, we are in code red lockdown. I just took that as okay, lockdown, that means something serious is happening. And I know I'm in the United States. I have a feeling like I know what's going on.
yeah. Lockdown would mean like an active shooter on the school. I will say, even growing up in a pretty good part of the US, at my school, elementary school, middle school, uh, we would do drills like in the event of a shooter or someone with a gun. We did practice. We did drills like to prepare if that ever. So the fact that we did that, like that's very standard in American schools to have a plan in case of a shooter. So I don't know, maybe that's not normal.
And luckily, I actually had another teacher with me at the time, and we had taken some things out of the closet and went inside. And that was the first experience. It happened a second time, it happened a third time, and I had other teachers afterwards telling me that they too were concerned, but I had another group of teachers that were
Wow.
saying, it's nothing you can control. It's out of your control, so don't worry about it. Just show.
Yeah, it's scary that we have to even say stuff like this. So obviously, she's had a very, very hard time in the United States. Harder than most, I would say. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people in the US who are struggling and underprivileged, and that's a tragedy. Um, it is something we don't like to think about, I think. So it's good to actually hear this story, even for me as an American, because this is the reality for a lot of people.
Up to work and do your thing and hope for the best. And I thought, you know what? It is in my control because I am lucky, very, very lucky that my husband is a Norwegian citizen.
Right?
And I will move back to Norway and I will find some kind of way to be approved for immigration this time around.
Wow. Okay. Now I understand. That makes sense. Because I was saying at the beginning, like, it takes a lot for somebody to move away from the US. I don't know anybody in my whole life who's done that. Americans don't even really travel outside the US much. So to move to a different country, that is extreme. I understand why she would do it. You know what? Hearing this situation, this American experience, I totally get it, actually.
So my choice to leave the United States was because of safety. But when I got back home, the day that I decided, that's it, this is the third lockdown, I'm so done with this job, even though I wish I could like pack up all of my students because I love them so much. I wish I could just like pack them up and take them to Norway where they would be safe, where they would have free healthcare and dental
Yeah,
and none of.
yeah. Yeah, we haven't even gone into the other stuff. This has mostly just been about how, in some parts of the US, you are not safe. And that's really what motivated her to leave the US. They could have just tried to move somewhere else in the US, like to a safer community. There are places like that costs more money, but she was obviously I don't blame her. Like with that experience, I understand wanting to like even go to a different culture where there's not such a gun culture. I get it.
Them would go hungry because that was another thing I had to watch all the time, and it just brings me to tears thinking about it. I'm going to try to not cry in this video because I want to get out the information as nicely or as articulate as possible. But it was really sad to see that children would wear two backpacks to school, one in the front and one in the back. And I remember the first time I saw one of these kids wearing two backpacks, I knew how goofy he was, and he was a little bit of a troublemaker. So I said to him, "Where are you going? And whose backpack is that? Did you take someone's backpack? The one on the front there? That's not yours." And he's like, "Yes, it is." And I said, "What? What do you mean?" He goes, "Yeah,
Huh?
there's diapers in here for my baby brother and food so that my family can eat this weekend." And I felt like such an idiot
Oh.
because I had come from such a privileged background and I didn't even know how these things worked in this city that I lived in. How
Okay, I don't think she's gonna say the name of the city, but there's some pretty bad cities in the United States, and unfortunately, families and kids suffering in the United States, and we don't have very good forms of like welfare and helping people who don't have money for food. But it sounds like this student was taking advantage of like a food bank. That's where you go to like the school, and there's a lot of donated cans of food or foods that are in boxes, and you can basically, if you need it, go and fill up your backpack with free food and take it home to your family and diapers and things. That that would mean that you are really struggling. Like you're quite poor, and it's nice that those things exist in the U.S., but it's not even like a government thing. It's more like a community thing, like volunteers and donations. The U.S. government should be helping these poor kids. Like that's sad.
However, the city, it was unsafe. It was a low income area mixed with some people that had like big beaches, pardon me, like mansions or houses on the beach. So you had like a big mix of families coming from different incomes.
Okay.
So I remember that hit me too, where I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many of these kids that need help. I don't know, it just breaks my heart because you also get to meet the parents and they're so kind and so giving, and they still have like hope in their eyes. Even though they're working at Walmart at night, their children have to walk through basically the ghetto to get home from school, and these kids are only like 5 years old, some of them, wearing
Oh, I mean, it's so sad. Like you got to do what you got to do. It's so sad, and there's not much help. And if you get a job at Walmart or whatever, and you're getting minimum wage, there's so many aspects to American like policies that are so bad. Like you can barely survive on minimum wage. You get a little government assistance if you have kids. You can file for some stuff, but there's stuff that's out of your control. Like have your kids have to walk through like the dangerous neighborhoods, and this is very sad. I see why she was like very traumatized by this.
two backpacks, mind you. And as a teacher, I just had to say, like, okay, bye, good luck. I hope you get home all right. See these families struggling. And the reason I decided to leave the States is because I saw myself kind of getting to that point. I didn't have the education, I didn't have the money to keep going. I thought, okay, now that I have like this little bit of chunk of money, I'm gonna get myself back to Norway. Yeah, when I
Wow.
came,
Okay, so that was a big explanation of like why she is so motivated to leave the U.S. And I have to say, that's a story right there. That's not something you hear too often, but I don't blame her one bit. That sounds horrifying.
home to my husband the day that I was deciding, okay, today's the day I have to tell him, like, thank you so much for moving to the city and moving away from Norway just for me, for my dream job. But guess what? I don't want to stay here. I don't want this job anymore. I'm losing my mind. I'm scared for myself, and I'm losing faith in just like everything that's going on in the leaders of the country. And
Right. And then there's stuff like, yeah, stuff like that, like Donald Trump getting elected again. And it really sounds like it's really tragic. She had her dream job, a teacher, helping kids in an underprivileged community, really noble. And it's like all these American policies have failed her. Like how guns are so prevalent in the US, how it's so easy to get guns, and like how our welfare system sucks, and how we don't help these poor kids and get them food and safety and all these safety concerns here, and our politicians. And she makes a lot of good points. I understand now.
general, not just Florida, not just that community that I was a part of where I worked. So I went home to tell him that, and he presented me with a bill. My husband was in a car accident when he was about like 16 years old, something like that. Had to get half of his digestives removed, so he
Oh
has
my
a
god.
lot of issues, and he is disabled. So my
Oh my
husband
god.
showed me this bill, and he said, I have to get this scan every year, every 3 years, every 5 years, depending on my symptoms, to just check if anything cancerous is inside.
That sucks, particularly in the United States, because your scan probably isn't covered by your health care, or there's probably all these extra payments, and it sucks to have a chronic illness like that, because in the US, you're going to pay so much money for that.
This bill for a procedure that I think would last 10 to 20 minutes long,
Oh,
that
yeah.
he will have to continue to get through his whole life. We were billed $10,000 with his health insurance.
I would leave the I joking aside, I would leave the country. I would like what do you even do? What do you even do at that point? I'm actually curious. What did she do? You can That's a good example of getting utterly screwed by the American healthcare system. This I've heard of stuff like that. It's extreme, but yeah. So $10,000 every scan? What? That It's so embarrassing for the U. It's so bad. Um, Nobody can afford that. That's insane. Obviously, like. So you can try like calling the healthcare company or calling the hospital and trying to negotiate a lower rate. Yeah, people actually do that. Call the hospital and try to negotiate. Like it's a car or something. What did they have to do? Like, nobody can afford that.
The health insurance that he is paying for every single month out of his paycheck, mind you, his paycheck was like not even $2,000 a month, maybe a bit more than that. For him, he was a Disney employee because he worked at Disney World.
I've had like bad healthcare experiences similar, like on a smaller scale, like going to the emergency room and getting a bill for like $800, which is like most people don't have like an extra $800, you know? That I thought that was insane. Like that made me not want to go to the emergency room anymore if I need help. But so that was like crazy for me. For her and her husband, it was 10,000. I don't.
So he had his own health insurance, and mind you, Disney has some of the best insurance. It is one of the best companies to work for in the United States if you need health and dental insurance and a bunch of other things. So with that in
Insane.
mind, all the benefits we had through his company, he still had to pay $10,000. And I'm thinking to myself, where are we getting $10,000 from? Because like $10,000 is my rent. $10,000 is just, for me, it would be two and a half months of my student loan debt that I'm paying off. I can't do that. We can't afford this.
Yeah.
So we were both.
Oh my God. Nobody can afford that. I don't know what that translates to Norwegian kroner or it's a some people like that's like 25% of their yearly pay.
With an agreement that we had to go back to Norway, especially for him being disabled and knowing that this is a lifelong thing
Yes.
that he will have to deal
Yes.
with.
Yes. Yes. Go back to Norway. Yes. This healthcare thing, I thought the gun thing was bad. The healthcare thing, they basically have to go back or go bankrupt.
I went back and I was disapproved again. I had to pay for a lawyer.
I don't know what immigrating to Norway is like. If she is married to a Norwegian, is that not enough to immigrate?
Oh gosh, I don't even know how much money I've spent on immigration. It's insane. I'm not saying that every country is like this, but Norway is very difficult for Americans to immigrate
Oh.
to Norway.
Oh. I didn't know
It was
that.
very difficult to immigrate to Norway. So I ended up having to go back to the States because in Norway you have 3 months to stay as an American on a visitor's visa.
Okay.
Then you have to go back to the States for 3 months.
This is sad because she can't even like be with her husband who's in Norway then. Like this is sad.
Again, very lucky. I got to go stay with my parents. Felt so sick for so many months. I'd done blood work in Norway, which by the way, even without being a Norwegian citizen, the blood work and the appointments were like $40 every time I went, which is crazy to me. I didn't even pay taxes at the time. I was just on a visa. So yeah.
It's cheaper to go to Norway as an American than to use healthcare here.
I went back to the States and I found out that I was pregnant. And that's, I guess, why I don't know, the blood work wasn't showing that I was really sick. That was a shock to me, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, again, here I am again. I'm going to figure out a way to be in Norway, be with my husband,
Yeah.
who is also the father of my child. Got to the lawyer, and I started basically begging the Norwegian government, like showing them pictures. They wanted to see ultrasound pictures and whatnot, and I did it. I said,
Oh, so having a baby actually might have been convincing for the Norwegian government. Like, getting pregnant might have been kind of a good thing, like, as proof of their relationship, and, like, in a funny way, that might have actually helped.
sure, here, have it. Can I please come there and at least give birth in Norway? Because I do not want to pay to give birth in the United States. I also know that Norway has a better like medical situation going on than in the United States. That was
Yeah, me and my wife she has given birth in the US to our son, and that, I mean, without insurance, it would cost you like $30,000 or something. It's a joke. With insurance, if nothing goes wrong during the birth, it can be like 4,000, I think, 4 or 5. You have to basically save up for a long time. In when you're expecting birth in the United States, you need to save up a lot of money, and you prepare for that bill. It's like a big thing.
was finally when I got to be in Norway, I was approved, and I do not believe it was because I gave birth there. I had to fly over, 7 months pregnant. I had to fly over to Norway, and every procedure I got done was free. Mind you, I still was not approved for
Oh my
immigration.
God.
I was approved for immigration 1 month after my son was born. And I went to work. Like 1 month after I was born, I was like, oh my gosh, finally I can work, I can get some money, I can start thinking about building a future here.
That's too bad for her, because, like, don't Norwegians get, like, a crazy amount of time off when you give birth? Don't you get, like, months and months and months off? She didn't even really get that benefit. That's too bad. Or she wanted to work.
And that's when it really hit that like I was happy to be in Norway and stay. And I'm not saying that it's easy. Immigrant life is very difficult. I did not have like everything that I have when I started. So basically,
Okay.
all in all, I choose to continue to live in Norway, even though I miss my family so dearly.
Yeah.
I miss a lot of things about the States. There's great things about the United States. There really are.
I'm glad she says that. Like, there are good things about the US, but for her experience listening to this, and she's not the only one who has experienced this here, but she had a pretty extreme case, I would say. Um, that that overwhelms any good that the US has done for her, I think. So, for her situation, yeah, I think it makes the most sense for her to be in Norway if she can be.
But it's not worth it. It is not worth it for safety reasons. I do not want to raise my child in Norway. I don't even myself, before I even had children, wanted to be living in the United States. Second of
I think she meant to say she doesn't want to raise her child in the US.
all, I have universal medical and dental insurance. My son will have that, and his is completely free. And as I am
Wow.
pregnant, everything will be free. Everything will be free unless it's some kind of voluntary thing that I want to do. Like I went and got the flu shot. You don't need to get the flu shot when you're pregnant in Norway, at least. So I just paid $30. $30. Hi, hello. I'm making my one job.
Yeah, I know in Norway you guys have like you pay taxes, and that mostly covers the healthcare, right? Oh my God. I would love that. So many Americans would love that. I don't know why we don't even talk about doing that.
Gives me $70 to about $100 an hour, depending on what I'm doing. Or actually per 45 minutes, not per hour. And then my other job is literally just working at a clothing store, and I'm making enough money to survive. I'm making enough money to
What?
survive.
What? That's different. Yeah, in the US, you, like, there's very little government oversight over our companies and employers, so they don't have to pay you well. And at a clothing store, you would not make enough money in most places to survive. So that's why she is so excited. That's not even really possible in the US.
In the States, I could not survive. But I'm making enough money that if I really wanted to, I can go get my hair done every 3 months. I can buy some jewelry every once in a while. I can get my nails done. I can do
What?
some luxury things on top of just surviving. But the thing is, in the States, you can't even survive working at a grocery store, working
No.
as a school teacher.
No.
What the heck?
No.
People need their groceries. They need people to stock shelves or at least deliver it to them.
And I think another sad thing is we've kind of accepted that this is like in America, this is the way it is. There's gun violence. You hear about school shootings every couple weeks, and you're just like, oh, that sucks, but it's not unexpected. And the healthcare situation, you just say, oh, that sucks, but that's the way it is. So I don't know. Hearing about some of these things about life in Norway really makes me think like that's not how it has to be, actually. We just choose that way. Or we're too dumb to learn a different way. I don't know.
That blows my mind. A teacher who's basically raising your children when you're not there. They're giving them knowledge. They're giving your children education for their future.
Oh, yeah. Teachers in the US are paid terrible.
Third, I don't know where I was going. I was just gonna say like a retail worker. Like when I was just folding t-shirts and restocking things, I was making enough money to survive. I could put food on the table. Well, that's it for today. If you have any questions,
Wow.
I would love to answer them for you. So leave them down below.
Whoa. I didn't know what to expect with all this, but I wasn't expecting all that. What a unique experience. Well, it's not totally unique, but I think there's a lot of people have a lot of problems here in the US. She experienced every problem in the United States. Every one of them. And she had her husband, she had the opportunity to go to Norway, and it makes so much sense. And she seems way happier about it. Like she's saying, she can actually survive. She doesn't have to stress about healthcare and safety. And yeah, it sounds like that was a great decision for her. So I'm sure if a lot of Americans had like, if other Americans were married to Norwegians, they'd probably do the same thing, to be honest. There's definitely Americans here that don't want to be. But there's also people here who are happy. So this was a really interesting perspective to see. Really interesting. Eye-opening. So anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on this American and her reasons for moving to Norway, of all places. And if you're interested in more videos like this, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.